So, your smartphone, the car you might be driving, the entire future of green energy, well, it all hinges on a pretty small handful of special materials. And right now, the global scramble to control them has kicked off a brand new kind of gold rush, a really high-stakes power struggle that's going to define the 21st century.
Let's just start with one single, kind of staggering number that gets right to the heart of this whole story: 2 million. That's how many liters of water it can take to produce just 1 ton of lithium. And that right there, it shows you the hidden and often immense environmental cost behind our so-called clean technology revolution.
So, this is the new global gold rush. But the prize? It isn't gold. It's a whole group of elements we call critical minerals. Let's dig into why the world's demand for them is just absolutely skyrocketing.
And look, we're not just talking about some abstract elements on a periodic table, right? Think about it. These things are the non-negotiable building blocks of our modern lives. They're in the phone you're probably holding right now. They're at the very heart of EV batteries. They power the data centers that run AI. And yeah, they're absolutely essential for national defense.
And the demand isn't just growing, it is exploding. Just look at this chart showing the projected surge by 2040. We're talking about an 8-fold increase in demand for lithium, a 4-fold increase for graphite, and nickel? Its demand is expected to double by 2050. I mean, the scale of this is just wild. So what happens when you have this kind of unprecedented demand? Well, the global supply chain turns into a battleground. This isn't just about economics anymore, not by a long shot. It's become a new kind of geopolitical Cold War, fought over who gets to control these vital resources.
And here is the absolute core of the conflict. See, it's not just about who digs the minerals out of the ground. That's what they call the upstream. The real power, the chokehold, is in who can refine and process them, the midstream. And as you can see, that power is overwhelmingly concentrated in China. We're talking over 90% of rare earths, nearly all of the battery-grade graphite, and up to 70% of the world's lithium.
This kind of dependency has forced a massive strategic shift, especially in the United States. The whole conversation has pivoted, sharply. What used to be mainly a discussion about climate policy is now being framed as an urgent, gotta-fix-it-now national security imperative.
So, how are the major Western powers responding to this huge challenge? Well, we're seeing two very different strategies play out. On one hand, the U.S. is taking a really direct, what you might call a muscular approach. They're investing directly in mines, striking one-on-one deals. The European Union, on the other hand, is using a more systemic, regulatory playbook, changing rules and creating brand new standards for how these materials get reused.
But you know, this whole situation leads us to a pretty deep and uncomfortable irony. Is our frantic search for the cure for climate change actually creating a whole new environmental crisis? This is what people are calling the green tech paradox.
This table kind of lays it all out, plain and simple. Whether it's the brine evaporation for lithium that's sucking up all the water in dry regions, or hard rock mining creating these huge, toxic waste pits, or just the massive carbon footprint of nickel and cobalt mining, the road to a green future is paved with some really serious ecological challenges.
So, faced with all these environmental costs, guess who's paying attention? The countries that actually have these resources. And this has given rise to a really powerful new force: resource nationalism. Basically, mineral-rich nations are saying, hey, wait a minute. They're no longer content to just ship out raw materials. They're asserting control and demanding a much bigger piece of the pie, which just adds another complicated layer to this whole global scramble.
But okay, this isn't all just a story of conflict and crisis. Innovation is offering a potential way out of this mess. So let's look at the new technologies and new ways of thinking that could help us forge a more sustainable future.
First, to really get the solution, we have to be super clear about the problem. Traditional mining is slow. We're talking months or even years. It's incredibly thirsty, consuming just massive amounts of water. And honestly, it's pretty inefficient, with recovery rates that can be as low as 30%. At the scale we need these materials, that way just isn't going to work. Now compare that to the new way. Technologies like direct lithium extraction, or DLE, are potential game changers. I mean, DLE promises to use up to 90% less water. It can slash extraction times from years down to weeks, and it can hit recovery rates as high as 95%. All of that with a tiny land footprint. It's a huge deal.
But look, cool tech is only half the answer. The other part is a fundamental shift in how we think, which is captured perfectly by this idea:
the circular economy. What if we just stopped treating these incredibly valuable resources as disposable and started seeing them as a long-term asset? That's the core idea.
A really powerful example of this in action is the whole concept of second life batteries. Get this, when an EV battery is retired from a car, it often still has up to 80% of its juice left. So instead of just shredding it, it can be tested, repurposed for things like large-scale energy storage, and only sent for final recycling at the very, very end of its useful life.
And we're not talking about some small niche idea here. By 2035, we could have over 1.3 million tons of EV batteries retiring every single year. That's not a waste problem. That's a massive, sustainable, above-ground mine just waiting for us to tap into it.
So, this brings us all the way back to the central dilemma, doesn't it? We absolutely need these minerals to build our clean, high-tech future. But as we've seen, that future comes with some immense geopolitical, environmental, and social costs. And so the real question is, what price are we willing to pay?